Sorry, give me one sec. Okay, welcome everyone to our conflict resolution workshop. This is the first of many, hopefully, something that we want to do every year. And today, this is going to be our agenda. So we want to make this event recurring because we really think that a lot of conflicts and disagreements can be bridged if we address it right away. And this is the kind of culture that AFSA, as an organization, want to kind of lay on its foundation. We want to have good communication from the very beginning. So today for this workshop, I'll be hosting with my partner in crime, Ricky, and we're going to begin with a practice on listening. And then we'll take what we learn as a foundation as we move forward with Ricky's presentation on microaggressions and how to respond to it as an ally, or as the receiver of the microaggression, or even as a potential aggressor. Like this is like a practice on how we can check ourselves. And we'll have time towards the end for an open forum as well, so we can listen and learn from each other's experiences. We're going to ask you to really give us your attention for this workshop and use the chat when you can. And if you missed the announcement, we are recording this workshop. So if you want to hide your face, now's the time to turn off your video. Although I don't think that the actual participants' videos are actually going to be recorded. It's mostly just going to be the screen. So just to practice and make sure that you are all participating, I have a little prompt for you, which is to kind of put one of these emojis next to your name, whether or not you have, say, experienced microaggression, been a bystander, or been an ally. Copying and pasting it on the chat for easier thing for you. But while you're changing your name, I want you to kind of really reflect on your memories on when you were the receiver of a microaggression, or when you stood up for someone as an ally, or when you were kind of just like a bystander, because we want to talk about them later during the open forum and see how those experiences can teach us on like how to be better next time those instances happen again. Just gonna give you guys some time to change your names. For those of you just coming in, welcome. We have this prompt of just kind of as a reflection to see whether or not you've like just put these emojis, one or all of them, if you've experienced microaggression, been a bystander, or been an ally. And we're gonna go back to it later towards the end during the open forum, just to kind of see and discuss like how these experiences could have been better, or like what to do. And this isn't the first time we're doing this. We did kind of a practice of this last week during mentor mentee, and one of the feedbacks that we got is that towards the end people became a little bit more alive during the discussion. So we're going to play it by ear. We said that this is only a 1 hour workshop, but if you guys really want to keep talking, we can extend it until 9:30 Eastern time. Okay. So I see a lot of you all have experienced microaggressions. I think most of us have, as a group of minority people, honestly. And being bystanders, it's really, yeah, like like being an ally for me is a really hard practice. You have to be super mindful, and a lot of times you're just kind of caught off guard. So I feel that. Okay, so we're just gonna come back to that later. So what are we doing here? One of the reasons that we want to do this now is because it's early on the year when everyone is talking about their New Year's resolution and how to become a better person. And so we thought that we'd take advantage of that time of the year when when we're all in a reflective mode to kind of add another level of self-improvement. And this is something that we just want to bring into light because AFSA being a very young organization, we want to make sure that the foundations that we're building as we grow is for a healthier culture where we have open communication with each other, and that hopefully we don't have too much disagreements, and that we're able to have diverse opinions and an open forum and healthy discussion of whatever it is we're talking about in this organization. Um, yeah. And so we want to reiterate that this is just the first step and not a complete map. And this is an ever evolving workshop. So we're actually really open ears from you guys for any improvements that we could do after you've taken this workshop. So we want to invite you to take what you learn here just as a foundation or stepping stones. It'll continuously change and evolve with the needs of our communities. And we also want to acknowledge that microaggression has a lot of forms, and these are not just applicable in one setting. We won't be able to tackle all of them during this 1-ish hour workshop. So we ask that you keep your mind open and your ears alert whenever you're in a community you belong in. And also that Ricky and I were not superhumans and we're not perfect. So we can't promise 100% perfection, but we'll definitely be all ears during this workshop and even beyond. So let's begin. What is microaggression? Microaggression is a comment or action that subtly and often unconsciously or unintentionally expresses a prejudiced attitude toward a member of a marginalized group, such as a racial minority. That's how it's defined by Merriam-Webster. Some examples would be, oh, you're pretty for being dark skinned, or you speak English so well, or like you look so exotic. It's a lot of like backhanded compliments, kind of. And I think that like like when you're young, it's a little bit hard to spot. Like when I was new here in the US, I always thought that those were just really cute compliments. But when there's like a nuance of race included in it, it could be very microaggressive. And often they have you will have trigger words. Trigger words are words that signals and communicates like something visceral for you. In this context, we want to hear if you have any words that make you feel irritated or annoyed, and all sorts of unpleasant things when you hear it from someone. This is one of those interactive things. So if you can put on the chat if you have trigger words, that would be great. For me personally, I like emotional is something that depending on the context really annoys me when it's said. Type it up in the chat, y'all. Another example for me is like when people ask me where I'm from. Oh yeah, overreacting is definitely like, especially if you're already in an argument and someone tells you you're overreacting, it's like, no, it just escalates. Thank you for sharing, Alexis. Anybody else? I don't believe that no one has trigger words. I can't be the only sensitive person here that gets triggered. Oh no. Oh, that's cute. I say that all the time. Malia, if you want to say exactly what the tone is. That would be great.
No, it's like I haven't experienced it in a really long time, but my friend's dating right now, and some guys will go up to her and they'll go, "Oh, that's cute." Like when they tell her that, or when she tells them that she's in a PhD program, they'll go, "Oh, that's cute," or something like that.
Oh,
So I thought that's kind of rude, and that would make when she told me that it made me angry. So I feel like I guess that is a trigger word for me.
yeah. Yeah. It's the tone. A lot of these trigger words it's definitely the tone, like when there's like a hint of sarcasm. Um let's see. I'm just gonna call on randomly, okay? We're gonna have two more examples. Alexis, do you wanna share about the why are you so quiet or shy?
Yeah, I mean, well, when I'm in certain spaces where I'm not close to anyone, I'm kind of just like silent. And then it's really weird when, like, especially if I'm in a professional space and I'm just like not contributing as much, and then someone goes like, "Oh, no, no, but you should say something, right? Like, what is your opinion on this?" And it's just like awkward when I'm just like trying to communicate to other people in my own comfortable way, and you're kind of like forced to, like, open
Mhm.
up or whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm introverted. A lot of people don't believe it, but my personality tests have always resulted to me being an introvert, and I feel like there's a lot of our society always are kind of extroverted centric in some ways where behaviors of introverts are questionable, but we never actually question the behaviors of extroverts in some instances. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what comes to mind. Josh, how does apathetic trigger you?
Oh, it was mostly relates to my homeschooled identity, because I was basically touted just for my intellect, and people would disregard my emotions. So it felt really bad whenever someone would like compare me to be like, "Oh, you're just good at calculations, like a robot. It's not like what we're doing doesn't matter because you really just think things through logically." And it was a way of like suppressing how I felt for a logical identity excuse.
That makes me really sad. That it sounds like it hurts. I'm sorry that people said that. Okay, well, let's move on. Keep chatting though, because we're gonna have an open forum. So if you all see any like big topics here in the chat that you wanna continue on later, we'll definitely have time for that. So we're gonna go to a listening practice, and this is something that like I think is very important. Like I don't think that anyone here have ever taken a listening workshop class before. It's just not part of our curriculum, but I think that it's insane because it's like literally one half of communication, you know? Like we're taught to speak, to write, but we're not taught to listen. And there's a very big difference between hearing someone and actually listening to someone. So over the summer, I actually did one of this listening workshop when I was working with the UN, and it really blew my mind. Like just I mean like it's not much, but so I just want to share kind of what I learned. So let's see. So there's three types of listening. There's active listening, empathic listening, and reflective listening. And we're going to go through each of them. Reflective listening is when you respond back and kind of like repeat what was said to you. It's very it's this is a bare minimum of listening that that you should do. It's very useful in a work setting because whenever you're communicating a task or you know like team building and stuff like that, it's really good to kind of confirm that you did listen and you heard exactly what needs to be done. um, Empathic listener is when you don't just listen, you also try to feel what the other person was feeling whenever with whatever topic they were telling you about. So it's about giving people an outlet of their emotions and being a little bit more open. They typically you'd share experiences, and in when you're empathically listening, you're able to accept new perspectives, um, because you place yourself in that situation of whatever it is you're hearing from. And this is like the beginning of like it's very important for conflict resolution, because a lot of times this is something that we forget to do, is that you could be having a discussion or a dialogue with someone in the same room, but you're not really like trying to see the perspective of the other person, and you realize it's just kind of a waste of time when you do it like that. And so active listening is the third type of listening, and it's kind of a combination of both of them. So the listener would typically summarize back what they had just heard and also relate to the speaker like empathically and gives in an honest response. This is really essential for giving constructive criticism. Like for me, as a creative, it's a very good skill to have, because you're always taking feedback from other people about your work. And this is like, like if someone is an active listener, they are more equipped to actually say words and criticize someone in such a way that that other people will not take it as an attack to them personally, but rather something about their work. So we're gonna do a little pop quiz if you kind of understood what I said. And this is just like an example on how would you respond like as an active listener if this had happened. Like imagine that we are at an brainstorming session in AFSA, Carla's not around, and we're a team working on a project, and I say like, hey y'all, like we have a lot of things to do, this and this and this and this needs to be done, I'm super overwhelmed, I digress, and then I kind of blame Carla. It's like, oh, and Carla also asked me to do all of these other stuff. Anyways, meeting over. How would you respond to that? You can just speak up if you have an answer. Otherwise, I'll probably just call on someone. Like you can think of how would you respond if you were a reflective listener, an empathic listener, or an active listener. And there's no right or wrong answer here. So don't be shy. Can I hear from Celine? Are you there?
Hi, yes. I was just thinking what I would like say first. And I think the one word that kind of got me was the word overwhelmed. And I would maybe say something along the lines of, I've experienced that before, I've been overwhelmed before, and I totally understand where you're coming from. And maybe ask in specific, like, what could I do to sort of alleviate some of that overwhelmed feeling? Yeah, I think I would really focus on kind of that emotional part.
Yeah, I think that that's a great response. I think that when you're in a team setting, a lot of times people don't know the boundaries on like when to just keep it professional or not. But if a teammate is overwhelmed, I think as a team member you should always ask how you could help. So I think that, yeah, I think that's great. Precious, are you there?
Um, yeah, I think that I would first I would try to help you in any way that I can because I know that you have a lot of work to do. But I think that I would also maybe privately call you out for calling out Carla. That I might tell you that maybe that I don't think it's right that you are talking about her behind her back. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I think like this is something, like really important, I think. Because as a community for like AFSA, we're very casual with each other, but whenever we're in a professional setting, um, you should never kind of blame a superior about something. Um, like that, like I think that it's not the right space. If you're, like this is something that we need to all practice, is that to kind of like also know when is the right time to talk about something. Like if it wasn't a team meeting and if we were just friends hanging out, maybe I could, share my frustrations to my friends about my superior at work. But if it is a team meeting, I think it's not professional, because all of you all would, essentially work with that specific superior too, and that's just not a good that's just not a good example. And yes, Carla, just want to reiterate that this is completely hypothetical. um, okay, so let's move on. Now, actually, Ricky is going to take over the slides, and is going to start presenting about microaggression. I'm going to stop sharing and let Ricky take over here. Ricky.
Hello. Yeah, I'm getting it ready. Cool. Can you all see?
It's very low. Can barely hear.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Can you all see and hear me? Okay, cool. All right. So, yeah. So moving on to like microaggressions. So on top of like listening, right, there are other skill sets that you can use to address situations where, conflict has arisen. And while the next stuff that I'm going to mention are like general, like, and they are applicable for like a lot more than just microaggressions, just like in terms of harassment or like seeing a fight happen and stuff like that. It's more of a general way to look at it. So, but we'll look at it in terms of microaggressions and see how y'all would respond specifically to trigger words and stuff like that. So it's important that when you're in your space, whether it be academic, professional, with your, if you're studying with a group of friends for a group project, that you're aware of like your surroundings, right? Like being socially aware of like what's going on, such like, political climate or like just knowing in your setting, like when is a good time to talk about these certain things, like kind of like how you would read the room, right? That's how the phrase goes. So just being aware of like where you are and like how some of the things that you may say may not be appropriate. And yeah, and that there's like, you are responsible, you're accountable for creating the space, right? So it's important to see how like you also change the energy in the room, so to speak. And one comment might, change and shift the room, and it's important to take that accountability at hand. With that being said, right, sometimes it's important to take a second, think and breathe, right? So you would take a moment if you are someone who said something out of turn, take a deep breath. If you realize that what you said was not, something conducive to the space, realize if you are someone who is at the receiving end of it and you heard something that that has triggered you, right? Also take a deep breath. And if you feel like you're clenching yourself, like your fists or your posture is affected, relax. And I know it's tough. It's not the best thing to hear when in that situation, like, oh, can you relax? But realizing that like physiological changes in yourself will impact like moving forward and like addressing the conflict. So yeah, this is like seeing how you and yourself and like responding to it. Just notice the physiological changes, and if things are happening too rapidly, take a moment to step away. Go to the bathroom, take a walk, yeah, and be verbal about it, or yeah, just walk away. And then this is to address these conflicts when they arise, right? So the first step is acknowledging that there is a conflict and you want to express that. One of the ways that helps with the communication is using I statements, because they kind of eliminate accusations and tension between parties, and yeah, and it allows you to be heard first, right, rather than like making objective things next, right? Which would lead to, yeah, finding common ground. And when you're having that conversation with that person, like find places that you both agree on, and even no matter how small they are, like see like how much common ground you could build on that can help lead to developing a solution between you both. And then if you are someone who's witnessing conflict arise, right? There are steps that you can take to see how, if, should you intervene, right? The first two are the most impactful. It's recognizing if someone has been hurt or upset, and responding. Like if you feel like you should talk to that person directly and say, check in on them. And the last one is report, right? If you're in a professional setting, taking that a step further is to like document and so forth. The reporting is not as applicable. If you're, I guess if you're in a college setting, you could go to your teacher, but but I do think the two, right, are the most important, right? Because it makes you realize how accountable you are in your space, and like if you need to step up and like read the room and apply those other steps that even Anna has said with listening and speaking and acknowledging your physiological emotions. Those things can help alleviate the situation at hand, right? So group activity 1. So we're gonna have a open discussion, and y'all can popcorn your thoughts on these hypotheticals. The first one is Ricky is chatting with his coworkers during lunch and looks over at Anna's plate asking what she brought. She says it's leftovers from that new restaurant. So good. Ricky elbows Natalie saying, it looks like your people food. Natalie squirms and says, yeah, I guess that's what I grew up eating. Ricky acknowledges that Natalie is visibly uncomfortable by what he said. So how should Ricky approach this situation? Before I call out, anybody want to volunteer? All right, let's ask Alexis.
Why am I being called out again? I think if you notice immediately that she's uncomfortable, I think first off you should apologize and be like, "Oh, I noticed that like from your tone or from like your body language that you seem like upset by what I said. Do you want to talk about it? Like what like if you're actually like curious, you should say something." But I'm assuming that like in his head that he already got what happened. So yeah, I don't know. I would just be like, I would, in my opinion, I would just be saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry about this, blah blah blah."
Yeah. Right, holding accountability for his actions, and having that dialogue with Natalie. How about if we were looking at it from Anna's position, right? She's kind of the third party in this. Who wants to share how Anna should respond, or if she should respond? Um, Precious.
Wow, we're getting called out, but well, I think in this case, it's for me, Anna and Natalie, I think were the ones who experienced the microaggression. And well, I think Anna should also defend herself and defend Natalie as well and stand up for themselves and tell Ricky that, oh, you know what, we don't think, or I don't think that that's okay. You know, it's not okay saying that, oh, it looks like your people's food, and that's wrong. So yeah.
Yeah, that was a double whammy Ricky did. And I'm glad that you called that out. And yeah, it's one of those situations where like in Anna's position, um, you know, she should, or I'm not gonna say should, but there's an opportunity for her to, you know, align with Natalie and let Ricky know her thoughts about the situation as well. Right? Okay, let's go to the next one. All right. Ricky and Anna have worked together for years and frequently joke around. One day, Ricky found Anna sitting in his chair. When he asked her to get up, she jokingly suggested he could sit on her lap. He could tell she was kidding and didn't mean to make him uncomfortable. Was this an example of harassment? Let's ask Rhea.
Yeah, I would think so. Like even if it's not intentional, not all harassments are intentional. It's more of like how the other person receiving it felt it. So yeah, that was the question. So if it was an example of harassment, and I would say that it is.
Mm-hmm. What would you say? What would you think with Ricky's being uncomfortable? How would you think would be a way for him to validate his feelings and hold Anna accountable for that?
I think he should just tell Anna that that statement kind of make him feel uncomfortable, and since they're friends, he knows that that wasn't what Anna intended it to be, but it still made him feel uncomfortable. And just like, I mean, if you've been friends and worked together for years, the other party should, like, you know, acknowledge that what happened, and it would not be like hard for the other person to understand that she unintentionally said something that made the other person uncomfortable.
Yeah, right. There's like layers to this. Like they have been friends for or worked together for years, and they joke around. So like they have a rapport with each other, and yeah, and like you know, and when we see like when we get into these casual like spaces, right, there are some things like that could have been changed, right, or made this scenario better by like reading the room, right? Like Anna could have, you know, seen that maybe this was not a thing that she should bring up in a professional work setting. You know, maybe it's something they do during dinner after happy hour drinks and stuff, but maybe not in like work, right? It also leads to the possibility for them to have that like listening exercise, right? And hear each other's side and, you know, find common ground and discuss this so that, you know, so that they're aware of how each other would feel if they, you know, with this certain jokes and moving forward, right? Yeah, thanks. Loves it, loves it. So I'm gonna bring it to y'all and where is this? Okay, so we're gonna go back to to Anna's original introduction and like making an emoji with your name, right? And your experience. So does anybody want to share a conflict that arose with them and like how they handled it? Oops. Come on, y'all. I know y'all.
Okay, this was when I was really young. I was in high school, and at the time I really wanted to be a doctor, like a medical doctor, and I was in biology class. And my teacher was the person who pointed out the nurse in the textbook. And he goes, Malia, in front of the entire class, he goes, Malia, you're going to be a nurse just like the person in your textbook, right? And I was like, no. And I've kind of like, now I'm grad school and all of that stuff now. And I'm like thinking, I always think about that moment where I was extremely uncomfortable. And I guess I didn't really like resolve the conflict, but I did take that conflict and like use that to shape how I approach my current goals and how I want to like increase Filipino representation in STEM.
Yeah.
I think I can share my experience. Well, it happened about maybe 2 years ago, and I didn't know that it was microaggression, or I don't know if it's microaggression, but so I was in school, and our chef in our cafeteria, he was talking to us, and then he asked me, he was like, so what's your real name? And then I'm like, what do you mean? My name's Precious. And then he was like, no, I mean, what's your real name? Like your Filipino name? Like what's your real name? And I'm like, what do you mean? My real name's Precious. And yeah, he didn't believe me until I don't know, like, but yeah, at the end he was like, oh, okay, I'm so sorry. Because I explained to him that the Filipinos, unlike Chinese people, because he was comparing us to Chinese people and like Koreans, and that because back in school, the Chinese and the Koreans, they have their English and their native names, right? And then he was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I generalized it and stuff. But yeah, after explaining to him, then he's more aware now. So that's, yeah.
That's good. Thank you for sharing, Precious. Anybody else want to share? I'm interested. Actually, I want to hear kind of like an instance when, if you remember being a bystander to like watching someone experience microaggression and just watching and then looking back now, what would you have done differently if there was something? I see some of you guys with the monkey emojis. Aljo, are you there? Or actually, Miles, I saw you unmute.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could talk about when I was younger and I didn't know how to really inject myself into those situations where I just in generally like when there be situations like something definitely uncomfortable was said, but you just don't know how to like handle the situation. Um, I know that whenever that had happened, I would just like wait until like the person left to like talk to the person, like the what is it, the victim, I guess, to be like, hey, like, just I guess to talk to them about it, because I guess that's the most I would know how to do. Um, but at least now I don't let that happen. So yeah.
That's great. Somebody else? Ricky? Ricky.
I can share one. When I was like 18, 19, 20 years old, I was in the Marines, and I hate to use this excuse, but it's a very like boys club, like anything kind of goes, not a lot of rules. So a lot of microaggressions or like macro or like regular aggressions is really, really bad. And when I was a young Marine, you're just taught like you got to play along, otherwise you won't succeed. Like you won't, go into leadership. But then, so I know it just kind of goes. There's so many examples I could give, but once I became older and once I found a leadership position and once I was put in charge of Marines, I felt way different about it. Like I actually had a voice and I was able to stop all of it. Again, I can like, there's too many examples to give, but yeah, that's something. I was a bystander and eventually grew to an ally, but it did take me a long time before I kind of found my confidence. Maybe like 4 years of living through it before I finally figured it out.
Yeah, and sorry, y'all. I had trouble finding the unmute button, so I was gonna respond to a lot of things, but I couldn't turn it on. So, and then I figured that you could just go to your photo and unmute yourself. So, but what I wanted to also like put in there is like, that's the thing with microaggression, right? It works very insidiously. It's like normalized and like, and like yeah, it's something that that we have to, I'm not saying have to, but like it's important that we continue having these conversations, right? Like it's uncomfortable for many people, but like I mentioned this at the last workshop that I had, that we had, and there's like the one about, oh, what's that? If you don't like this Filipino dish, then I'm taking away your Filipino card, right? Like you're not Filipino enough, right? That's like a very common thing that we hear, like within group friend settings, right? Like when we discuss about our identity, and then and then someone being like, oh, you're not this enough, or how can you be Filipino with this, and stuff like that. And that's like and we think just because it's in this setting, right, like it's okay, and that it can be passed, but it's important that we talk about it, right, and discuss more about like how insidious microaggressions have become, that we think that it's things of a joking matter, right? And something that you can just nonchalantly ask people, strangers, like, oh, what's your name? Like, what's your real name? Like it's yeah, and like people, like most as people grow up, they learn to find it, but it's not something that is taught in like English settings. It's not like it's not a high school thing, and stuff like that. So it's important that we continue these conversations and we see experience, or we can share these experiences and realize how it relates to us and our identity and our shared identity as well. So does that make sense? I hope that made sense.
A lot of sense.
Does anybody else want to share?
Yeah. Hello everyone. Um, I'd like to share about my experience when I was in nursing school. This was like 2 years ago, I think. I was exposed to ICU for a month with different students. Yeah, and I was assigned to a stroke patient. And then what happened is that the nurse told me that I should be quiet because there was a commotion inside the ICU because the doctors find out, specifically surgeons find out that they had the wrong vein to operate. So the patient wasn't, um, okay, and that her condition was progressed to stroke, which is untreatable. And this nurse told me that you should not be allowed to talk about something. You should be quiet. Because you're still a student. And that kind of struck me because I was caring for this patient for a week, so I was kind of made a connection and felt a little close to the patient, even though he's stroke. But I was emotionally attached, and because of ethics purpose, I kind of like thought about telling this because it's a negligence, right? But since the nurse told me that I was just a student, you have no he's telling me that you're a student, you have no right to talk, or you have no voice. So eventually, I was kind of drowned in that thought until that I was scared to to take care of patients. And I think that it is really important to know when or where, when to listen and when to speak, when it's important and when it's needed, especially if you are in a healthcare setting where someone's life is dependent to your decisions and choices as well. But after that, exposure, the next semester I was able to grasp and understand and relearn about that experience. I thought that it is really important to not be silenced by anybody just because they want to be safe, just because they want you know they want to be safe from harm, or uh, and that is so sad. I think that anybody should learn to speak up in a way that they will educate anyone for the purpose of education, rather than just winning an argument. And it should start within yourself, because um, when you're speaking with sense, and when you're speaking with truth, somebody needs to know that truth as well. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's really unfortunate. I'm not in healthcare, so I don't know what the usual things are. I hope this isn't an instance that happens all the time. I hate the whole superiority thing in some ways, where students are not respected just for the fact that they're just students. And especially because it's, I mean, it's not exactly ageist, but it kind of is in that sense. And I think even in the Filipino culture, we have that a lot. Like your value as someone younger is always less than someone older. Um, yeah. Does anybody else want to share? Like, what about kind of like any experience about allyship? Something I really want to learn from all of you too is like how to be more effective as an ally. I know that I'm not like I still need a lot of practice in this, and I don't always know how to help someone when I hear or see something happening. And so, if any of you have successfully done something, or maybe you have an experience where someone was such a good ally for you, If you can share that, that would be amazing. I see some safety pins, so let's see.
Recently, I've had some, well, I guess how recently now? Back when the BLM protests started, we have a family group chat where it's like me and my siblings and my mom and dad, and they're talking about the things going on. And I heard a lot of unintentional microaggressions from my mom and dad. So knowing that they had different perspectives on it and were coming from very different places. My mom being in Texas and a businesswoman who has to deal with a lot of like microaggressions and other things and culture things herself there. I had separate conversations with both of them and tried to go over like what is listening to the perspective of what like they think their comments might mean and other things, and then trying to like translate to how I feel to like some of my friends or how it was coming off when I was listening to it and what it might be passing on as okay to other people. And then it made me really happy to hear that my mom's been interviewing for some things, and she was saying that even in the interviews, she was talking about how much she had learned about understanding other cultures and how she was finding different resources for herself to keep up the education. And I thought that was very, very good.
I love that, Josh. That's like a really great way to address these. I think the hardest, and y'all can share your opinion about this, but I think one of the hardest spaces to call out microaggressions are within our families, right? Like, do you guys ever get, like, my grandma used to always complain, like, whenever I came to visit or whenever I got home from school, she'd be like, why are you so dark? And, you know, I'm like, oh, grandma, you funny. But, you know, that's a microaggression. You know, like if your aunties or uncles go like, oh, you look so healthy, or like verbatim, like you look fat, like, you know, all these things, like how do you course correct this like embedded kind of Filipino-ness commentary / backhanded compliments, right? Like, have y'all experienced that? Like, talking to your family and like calling them out on it? And do you all think that family is the hardest? I mean, I think it is.
Yes, we both have.
And I think like in this day and age now with like civil rights movements and stuff, I think it's important to be able to talk to your, and like in Filipino cultures, I mean, in my family, I grew up with a lot of like anti-Black sentiment, and I had to unlearn that, right, when I got older and I had my own different types of views. And I think it's really important to be anti-racist and in like multiple different aspects, like being dark skinned, and my family used to tell me to like or give me like, you know, the whitening soaps and tell me to stay inside and not go in the sun and just things like that. And I think it's really important to be able to call them out and for like anti-Blackness and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the way I do it is like very unconventional and like not nurturing. But does anybody have like a specific conversation that they've had? And also, if you don't want to, but like talking with your family member about these things. I had a I could start actually. I had I had a conversation with my mom about like yeah, during the BLM stuff, about like the rioters, right? And I'm an asshole. I go straight to it. I'm like, Mom, why do you associate rioters with protesters? And she's just like, it's all over the news. And I'm just like, yeah, but you know, you're watching Fox News. Stop watching fucking Fox News. Like, it's like stupid shit like that, you know, like, and then she would just be like, if only they just if they work hard and get an education. I'm like, who works hard? Who are you saying who? Can you address who these who are? Can you tell me who these who is? And stuff like that. So it was just having like, I went in, and it's frustrating because my mom, anyways, but yeah, it's just, I'm like in a deep end, like where I like have no filter. And I don't know if that's like actually as good as being more patient, but yeah, opening the floor. Sorry, I just got triggered. I got triggered thinking about that time.
No, I agree with you.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Nat.
wait.
No, go ahead.
Wait. Okay. Wait, did you just say Nat?
I thought it was Natalie because for some reason it was highlighting her face.
That's funny. No, it's just her little. No, but I agree with Ricky, what he just said. I've kind of like I obviously it's a thing that you learn growing up, like you're supposed to respect your family, respect your elders, but I take that to a certain level when they're saying things that I definitely that are clearly racist and I don't agree with. So, for example, like again, my family or my dad particularly was saying like, yeah, I get why they're protesting, but why do they have to loot these stores and start all these riots? And I said, okay, so you care more about them stealing from these stores and big corporations, but you care less about the fact that they're being killed on the streets by the hands of the police. And it's just like they care more about the things that are not as like not like the main thing that's going on. And then it's just like I feel like they use the be respectful and like respect other people's opinions to like as something so general that it like they try to defend how they think. So for example, it's like my tita, she would be like, yeah, like it's unfortunate, but also like they're black people are just so loud. Like, why do they have to be like talking like that all the time? And I'm like, okay, but what do you mean by loud? Like, what is it exactly that you're like that you don't like about them? It's not just that. And then they'll never know what to say back, and they'll just be like, yeah, but I just don't like to associate with them. So I kind of have to remember that I'm not going to change their opinions if they don't want to listen or if they don't feel like changing. Um, and it's their fault if they can't defend themselves for how they think of these people and how they think of their own opinions. So, yeah, I guess it's just like balancing between like stick up for what you believe in, but also like I mean myself, I'm not a very patient person, but I want to speak out because I've just been like I'm tired of just like brushing everything off to the side. Plus I also have friends who are black and are different races of and of different many races. And then my parents are like they'll always say something that pushes like that they don't think is racist but is. And I've had that feeling to always defend my friends or just like other POC in general. So yeah. But I try to do it in like the most respectful way I can, even though it's hard. That's all I wanted to say. That was a bunch of word vomit.
Yeah, I
No,
find I like
go
that
ahead.
a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say that I had a really meaningful conversation with my mom actually. Like she was also commenting about the Black Lives Movement at one point. I forgot what the word that she said was. Like she said that black people are pasaway. I don't even remember which actual event this was. And so I took it upon myself to like really educate her, and I was like, actually, in fact, like there's like more crimes have been committed by white people. This isn't a race thing, and gave her all of the resources. And at the end of like our conversation, she really she accepted how racist that one statement was. And so I don't know if you guys have tried this strategy, but if you if you ever talk to your parents, you know, you kind of have to feel out whether or not they're in a listening mood. But I think that really backing it up with like facts could really help. you know, like if they're very logical people. I was really happy when I had that conversation with my mom because I was prepared to just keep arguing, but when she actually like, it was like she was enlightened by it, and she knows that like a few of my best friends are black too, and I was like, this is like a really racist sentiment, you know. And she's like, yeah, da 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 da. And it's like a baby step, but a very meaningful baby step, I think. Yeah. Anybody else?
You know what? You just made me remember one time I was tutoring this one student. He's maybe 12, 13 year old. He's black. His dad is a history professor at like Cal State Long Beach. His mom is works in the medical field, and he believes that there was no discrimination against black people. And like it's like, oh, this thing is like so internalized in him. And like, sometimes the conversations I would have with him, he's just like, it was too ingrained for him. And I kind of like did the same thing that you had done, where it's just, let's look at the facts and like let's pull up some surveys, or I mean some statistics. And I had him pull it up. And the funny thing is that the conversation at that time was about incarceration rates, and looked at all these statistics for different races. And he's like, yeah, well, like look at this source that I found, like, this is published by like California, and it shows that whites have a higher percentage than blacks. And at first I was like, what? Like that has to be wrong. Checked it out, and it was right. But the thing is that you count Hispanics as white people as well, because of technicalities and all. And so I was like, oh yeah, well, where are all the Hispanics and all that? That's because they're included in the whites, and that's why whites, have a higher percentage. And for him, he was like, okay, wait, this was a bad, statistics and everything. It's like, but you pulled it up, like you said it was credible, and then all of a sudden you're not. And yeah, I eventually, like, my time with the student had come to an end, and I don't think he still believed it at that time. So why I bring it up, sometimes facts do work, and I feel like sometimes it doesn't. But I think the hard thing is that we just have to keep trying. We can't just give up and be jaded, because, the world's not going to change for the better unless we put in the work. Sad to say, a lot of burden, but someone's got to do it,
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I want to also just kind of reiterate that like the journey for someone to be like from bystander to become an ally, it's not a straight line, and it doesn't happen with just like one instance. Like I definitely think that like what, like that example that you gave, Miles, like maybe that person isn't quite an ally yet, but maybe that interaction at least kind of was a little step towards becoming an active ally. And kind of, as long as that person ended up questioning more of what the media says and really asking better questions in the future, I think that that's definitely a win. Let's see, it's past 9 o'clock. I don't know if you want to keep, if all of you want to keep going with this conversation. Ricky, where are you?
Oh my God, am I muted? Am I unmuted? I can't. I told you I'm terrible with Zoom. I'm trying to like get that little button that's like the unmute button thingy, and I can't find it. It's not going up because I have the screen share thing on. So
If you hold down spacebar, it'll temporarily unmute you for push to talk.
you hear that? I get a. That's what I got. That's what I got. You hear
Are
that
you
button?
using a Mac? Is that why?
Oh, see, there you go. Yeah, I'm not using a Mac. Why? What's wrong with Macs? I see. I'm obviously talking because I'm having a conversation with you. Got it. So, y'all, it's been a week, and yeah, I guess if there's nothing else, I guess me and Anna just want to also mention, like, we are all in this space, digital space together, right? Like, just a reminder, even though we go to Zooms often, we do Kamustahans, like casual, professional, whatever, like, just always be mindful and respectful. This is always a safe space, right? And if you ever feel, if something ever, upsets you, or you need support on something, you have several outlets. You can email membership committee and let us know if somebody has upset you, if you want a mediation, if you want to address something that happened. Like, that's all a way that you can have someone to talk to. And then we're also going to be developing like an incident report place. So, like, if you want to do it anonymously, you can, so that someone can like be aware of the situations that go on, and like make sure that we address them in our spaces. Is there anything else you want to add, Anna?
I think that's pretty much it. Also, I guess if you guys have any other suggestions on how we can make a better safe space for AFSA, you can message membership at that email, or you can also just email AFSA's general email. It's like kumusta@filipinoscientist.org. I mean, like, I also don't want to volunteer all of you, but you can pay attention to whoever has the safety pins on their names right now. And if you don't feel comfortable emailing membership because it's not personal enough, then you want to share your experience, definitely try to reach out to someone who you see is an ally here. I don't have my name changed, but you can definitely message me, find me on Slack also. I'm not volunteering for Ricky, but I kind of am. I'm pretty sure you can you can message him too. He's a wonderful ally. I think that is it. Ricky. Maybe we can do, I don't know if anyone is taking a screenshot that we can use for pub.
Oh, so many people left.
I'm gonna do a candid one. Or no, I'll let you all post. Like, wait up. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oh wait. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, cool. Anything else? Does anybody else want to share closing remarks? No, Ricky.
And then John. Oh, they should do a train. Everybody should do a train of it, like, going through. No? Okay.
What do you mean? What?
What?
Can you say that again?
What?
Yeah, we're clapping, and then my next person on my screen is Josh, because Josh started doing it. So I was like, oh, then Miles should do it, then Natalie should do it. But like a wave.
Everyone's screen is different.
But I don't know if you guys' screen order is the same as mine. I don't know shit about Zoom. So
Yeah.
It's not.
It's different, Ricky. Like, our screens are all different. So we'll figure it out for the next time. But also, I want to invite you guys that, like, this is just the beginning of our communication workshop from Pub. This one is in collaboration with membership. The next one is, I have no idea who we're collaborating with, but it's going to be science communication. And we're going to go, by we, I think it's just me so far, but we are going to edit your presentations and data visualizations. If you need a little bit help with that, I can give you design principles for this. It's happening in April, but our Eventbrite ticketing thing is already up, and you guys have the codes clearly on how to do it for free. Definitely invite people that you know, and yeah. Any other announcements? Any exact stuff that needs to be said? No? Okay, Ricky, will you do the honors of saying bye to everyone and closing the meeting?
All right, thank you all so much. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.